Hi, this is John. A week or two ago, I did an interview with Alex Safranis, and he did a great job. He sent me the video, and I split it into three pieces. I hope you enjoy it. Feel free to comment, like, and share. Your friends will know you're smart. Enjoy.
Hello, and welcome to the Marketing Times Analytics Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Safranis, and today I'm on with John Miglosh. John, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, I'm president of the Wisconsin Direct Marketing Association. I'm also the founder of Miglosh Marketing, have launched a lot of catalogs, have worked with about 80 different catalog companies. I pioneered the use of computers in marketing, believe it or not, and especially machine learning.
So, I recently learned that Google has a ideal sort of spend split where they recommend, I believe it's 70-20-10, where 70% of your budget is spent on things that you know work, 20% is spent on, I think, maybe like it's 70-20-10, and I know that the 10% is like super new, like, basically throw away, like, try it on new stuff, don't expect it to work, and then the remainder you should spend on things that you do know work. And I think that's that middle ground that CFO that you were talking about was missing, which is that is correct, that you can over test and waste a lot of money, but you can also under test and waste a lot of money. So that it's all about finding what percentage of your budget is okay to use on testing
Right.
versus on performance.
And great mailers uh, will always test. Every mailing will have a test. But let's get back to the why I think AI is failing in marketing, and that is uh, that label data set. In direct mail, we have a label data set. In digital, we don't. We really don't. And any more than we would in outdoor or mass media. If you think about outdoor as just an example, you put up a big billboard next to the highway, and your business goes up. You know, stop in for a free hot dog or something. And but but is there a label data set? Well, you can keep track of everybody who stops in, right? But what you don't know is how many people went by and saw the ad, saw the billboard, and didn't stop in. You just don't know. How many didn't even see the billboard because they were looking at their speedometer or the kids were screaming or something, whatever reason. You don't know that either, right? And there isn't a way to know. And the same thing is true on your Super Bowl ad, right? You don't know. You may, if you have online TV, you may know that the TV was on the Super Bowl, but you don't know how many people were in the room, and you don't know if they all went to the bathroom, right? And in fact, as hard as I try to watch Super Bowl commercials, when the Who Won the Super Bowl commercial comes out, I inevitably have missed most of them, unless I go back and watch them on their own. So even if you're actually are in front of it and watching it, it may not be registering, right? Because it just goes by, right? And digital is in the same boat, except for digital fraud, which means that oftentimes a cookie is dropped on my computer when I didn't even see the ad. It may not even been visible, right? If you go to those, this is how they looked then. You won't believe how they look now, and then you don't even get to that person. I used
Mm-hmm.
to go 40, 50, next. Well, there's ads coming up, and unless you scroll the whole thing, you won't see them, but they're still dropping cookies. So there's an incredible level of digital fraud where you aren't even able to see, unlike TV or outdoor. So you've got a problem there, but you've still got the same problem. And even with Google pay per click, you've got a problem. Even Google admits we don't know the customer journey. You type in big screen TV, and up comes something, and you click on it and you go there, but you don't buy right now because you've never heard of them before, and something else comes up and you go away. Now there's a cookie. You come back. There's all sorts of noise in there. Okay, so what the conclusion I came to, the startling conclusion I came to was that direct mail has a labeled data set built in, which I didn't appreciate. And what I mean is that we know who we sent it to. You know, even when it's 5 million names, we know every name that got sent to, so that we can actually, even if there's no tracking code or nothing, or no, we can still match back, and we can say, well, we may not know the journey, but we know that we mailed this person, and within the next 3 weeks, they placed an order. That's a pretty powerful connection, right? Now you say, well, okay, so that's something, but we have kind of the same thing. We have Google Click. We clicked the link. We went to the website, and within 2 or 3 weeks or whatever, we can make it the same. Placed an order. That's true. You do have something. You have something, right? Now you don't know what other external forces happen, but the problem is that the bounce rate is 50% on that click, right? And so you you can give them all the credit, but if in many cases, let's say a mailer came in, wherever. Here we go back to the catalog, right? This mailer came to their desk and they said, that looks interesting, and they type in the name of the company, which is on the cover. Google brings it up. They click the link. Was that causal? Was Google causal? No, you paid double. So anyway, back to mail. So we know at least that better than we know it from Google. And we also know, and this is the important part, we also know, unlike a banner ad or a TV ad or something like that, we also know who got the piece and engaged but didn't buy. And that's the part that no other media offers. Engaged, and what I mean by that is that we know it gets delivered because the Postal Service is very good about delivery. We can actually get informed visibility, so the Postal Service will send us back an email when it gets put in the mailbox. Okay, we also have an assurance that a decision maker looks at it. So in our family of 6, we never let the kids pick up the mail, and I might pick up the mail, but I never really looked at it. My wife was the decision maker who threw it in the trash or didn't, right? Even my Bass Pro catalog. I would have thrown her Chadwick's away, but I didn't have that option. So the decision maker makes the decision. Not only that, but there's engagement at the tactile level. You can feel it, you can smell it. There's 10 times more sense receptors in your brain for touch than there is for sight. Okay? And a big principle is that direct mail doesn't throw itself away. Whereas every other media, if you don't see the billboard, you drive by, it's gone, right? If you don't see the banner ad, you drive by, it's gone. Now, it's a little different with TikTok. Has some good things about it that make it more volitional. You have to get rid of the ones that you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's annoying enough that they pick up a little bit. They get a little more of a data set than almost everybody else, where you just go zing, zing, zing. But anyway, so direct mail doesn't throw itself away. So even when you throw it away, you're making a decision. We have a built-in engagement, and we have a built-in decision by a decision maker, whether they're interested or not. Now, there's still, even when they decide not, there's still enough engagement that Andrew Ettinger talks about a tree trimming guy out on the East Coast who mails 20,000 pieces every month, postcards, just inexpensive. And when Tropical Storm Sandy hit, he had so much business, he was hiring basically all the other tree trimmers in the East Coast around him. Now, those weren't people that had utilized the service, and they were probably people who'd thrown his cart away every month. But when they had a tree down in their front yard, they said, "Oh, there's that guy who keeps mailing me that I've never engaged with placing an order." So there's still an advertising benefit, but better than that, we can take the non-buyers and the buyers, and we can add variables. What have they bought in the past? What kind of neighborhood do they live in? You know, credit history, whatever we want, and we can compare and see what the most important variables are. Now, here's where it gets dangerous, and this is where the AI guys are really losing it, I think. And that is that in my thousands of machine learning models, the biggest job was to throw away the idiotic variables. I mean, we'd throw a lot at the wall, I admit. And every now and then something really hits, like, you know, percentage of mobile homes was very predictive, actually. I don't know exactly why.
Well, that's a credit. That's probably a credit proxy.
Well, it could be. We thought that maybe it was, we noticed that when somebody bought like a Gibson guitar for a musician's friend, it's like a $3,000 guitar. We kind of wrote our scenario in our minds to tell the story. All of a sudden, that person wouldn't order again for like 4 years. They'd just go dark. So we figured, the package came to the door. The wife said, "Now what'd you order?" "We need a new refrigerator." And, out comes the guitar. Well, a couple of years go by, the divorce is settled. Now, the husband's living in a mobile home. And, basically all those independent variables are actually correlated,
Mm-hmm.
dwelling value, household income, high school graduation rate, all that stuff is actually not independent at all. The problem with AI is that it doesn't in general know the good from the bad variables. Now they can do some validation, and they do, but it just doesn't understand what it doesn't have any understanding of what it's doing. And so about 80 or 90% of the work of modeling is trying to tell a story with it. And I've been tested, Musician's Friend tested 11 times against 8 different modeling companies. And the last one was against the UCLA stats faculty. And they accused me of cheating because I beat them by 321% on a uniques test, which is a way to test one model against another. So I wasn't cheating, but it's the scary downside of modeling being done by either no one at all, either AI on its own or someone who doesn't understand offers and customers and any of that context.
Well, so explain that. So like, how does understanding marketing context inform model building? Like, how were you able to achieve better targeting results by understanding the context?
Well, as I said, one way is to look at the trivial. The other way is after a couple of hundred models, you get some concept of what does make sense. There's also the validation. So what we do when we build a model is we take we have, typically with catalog companies, again, not only do they have rich data, but they mail enough. If you have a couple of 100,000 catalogs, you take 100,000 of the people you mailed, set them aside, and you take the other 100,000 of the people you mailed and you model with it. And then every time you get a model, you say, well, okay, so what if we would have used this model on this population as they looked at the time we mailed it? We roll it back in time, and then we look at how it did and see if the results match up. And that would be possible to do in AI if they had the label data set, which they mostly don't.
So you're saying that it's really the data set integrity that is the greatest challenge for integrating AI in marketing today?
I would say so. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can integrate AI, in copywriting or in image creation or in, other things. But if you're going to actually try to figure out who's worth targeting or who's worth retargeting, then you really need the label data set.
Right. And how do you separate, well, just for the audience, how do you separate machine learning and AI?
AI was coined in the early 50s, and it meant anything that a machine could do that looked like it was it's not stupid, right? So most of programming in those days was considered AI. We didn't look for sentience; we just looked for reasonable repetition, right? So AI is the general term. Machine learning is really that differentiating factors puzzle, where we actually try to get smarter. The problem is machines don't really learn; they really show you the correlations.
I think what I'm understanding is that you mean them generally interchangeably, that machine learning and AI, at least in this
Well,
context.
machine learning is actually a higher level of AI, but um, because it is trying to come to a conclusion. AI isn't necessarily trying to do that. Um, what we've come to mean by AI in 2023 has more to do with machine learning than it does the earlier definitions. I'll say that. So yeah, you could use them pretty interchangeably.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that's very interesting. I know at least for my little area, we are using machine learning for targeting. Um, and I think there's various data science, like what would you call them? Like various practices to reduce collinearity, multicollinearity, and um, in addition, they review those variables that are being included with us, with the business team for that context. And recently, actually, we were taking a look at our models, and there were some variables that were a little bit concerning because they didn't seem like, because when you look at the variables, that's the secret sauce. That is how do you really know that somebody's a good customer for your business?
Right.
And it requires that business context to say that makes sense, that that's our secret sauce, and or that's ridiculous that like you want that variable to determine a good customer. So
Right. Trying to boil it down is almost never the right answer. It is in prospecting. Abacus and Weiland, they share data, and they do have a variable that's if I send out a catalog, I can tell what people bought from me, right? But when they get older, they haven't bought from me in 3 or 4 years. I don't know what else they're buying. So they might be buying from me. I'm Land's End. Then they stop, but now they're buying from Eddie Bauer. Now they're buying from LL Bean, and maybe someone else. So in these large data co-ops, you can find out that they're still active. So if we had our choice and we have a set of 1,000,000 4-year-old buyers that we don't know if they're valuable or not, and we can't really tell because they bought once, they didn't spend much, spend 4 years. So there isn't a lot that even our first party data knows. Something like that, which is sort of more like the third party data, but shows that, oh, they're very, very active. If I have 1,000,000 names, I can say, well, let's take the most active, let's match them against this data set with that variable, and they call it propensity to buy or something. And and it's ranked because some of those people in the co-op have bought 20 times, some 10, some 5, some 2. So you can say, well, let's take those 20-time buyers and maybe the 10-time buyers and get the ones that match in our million, and now maybe we've only got 50,000, and and give them a test, or 10,000, give them a test. And it turns out that usually that's a pretty profitable way to work your way down into that old millions of names. Makes
mm-hmm,
sense, right? Even though it's just one main variable, but it's a really powerful one because it's looking outside of your first party data.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very interesting.